Hey everyone, welcome back to the Jay Smith Down podcast. I'm your host Jay, and today we're going to be talking about the NFC division winners. I'm going to give you my predictions on who or what teams will win their NFC divisions this year and who will come out on top. A few surprises might come in here to a few of you, and then we'll talk about Zadarius Smith getting traded to the Browns away from the Vikings and how that's going to impact Cleveland and Minnesota trying to dump off his contract. So we'll talk about that, and then my must-watch game of the 2023 season this year. There's a lot of good games on tap. The schedule was released last Thursday, so we got to see all the matchups that will be going on this year, the primetime games, all that. I'm gonna give you my sole game of the year that I think is gonna be pretty good that everybody should watch. So just stay tuned for that. And before we get started, make sure you guys check us out here on YouTube and all of our podcast platforms. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Of course, and again, subscribe to the channel. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and let's begin. So, again, the NFC, of course, has been pretty top heavy the past couple of years. I mean, the 49ers, the Eagles recently, of course, this year, being the top teams there, Dallas, in a sense. But other than that, it's just been those top guys and then the bottom feeders, right? The AFC has kind of been majority, the teams have been pretty good, minus a few teams, right? Like the AFC, you got the Chiefs, the Bengals, even the Ravens made the playoffs last year. You got the Chargers, the Jags, right? These teams. And then you got some of these teams I think are going to be better in the AFC this year as well. They might sneak in there, like, we can see a possible team like, the Colts could sneak in. The Texans could sneak in there. I don't. I don't think they will, but it's possible. There's a chance they could, right? So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. I'm interested to see what happens there. But going back to NFC, of course, I just think the NFC has only like maybe two good teams so far. That's what we've been shown is that those are the 49ers and the Cowboys. Like nobody else has really been proven I'm sorry, the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys have been really the only teams to come in, win consistently in the NFC. And then win consistently in the NFC and then come to the playoffs. Of course, the Cowboys stink it up like they always do every year when they get to the postseason, but they still have a good regular season. They win like 12 or 13 games and they make it in there. So they just got to figure out how to get it done. And I think I have an idea of how they can start. Get rid of Dak Prescott. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different podcast. The point of the matter is, again, I just really think, I think there are some more teams that could make noise in the NFC this year that could, just be those like maybe that fifth, sixth seed, that can slide in there and give the top heavy guys a run for their money. So uh, those teams. So I'm going to give you my NFC division predictions. So for the NFC North, I got the Detroit Lions winning the NFC North this year. I think they're going to win that division. The moves they made in the offseason, they got their secondary better. They got Manuel Mosley over from the 49ers. They got C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles in free agency. They signed him. They made some good draft moves, right? And they still got Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive line and Lane McNeil, defensive tackle. He's pretty good. They're adding to that. They added to that. So their defense is, which was a big issue for them, that they addressed that in the offseason. And they're still continuing to address that, right? And offensively, they had one of the best passing attacks in the league last year. You have Jameson Williams is going to be healthy. He's going to be back for a full season. He's going to be healthy. God's willing. Hopefully, he's healthy for a full season, right? And of course, I'm a Ross St. Brown. It's going to be the Lions' offense is really good. Now you lose Jamal Williams, of course, in free agency. He was their big back. He's led the league in rushing touchdowns and had over 1,000 yards rushing. They traded away DeAndre Swift, but they drafted Jameer Gibbs from Alabama in the first round of this year's draft. So they obviously believe that he can, recreate that production out there at the running back position, and add a different dynamic to the passing game and to the rushing attack, which I believe he can. Being an Alabama fan, watching Jameer Gibbs when he transferred over from Georgia Tech, he is electric in the pass game. They use him a lot. They put him out wide. They let him, of course, run between the tackles. He can do that. So he's a guy that you can use in different spots on the field in your offense. I mean, I think Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson are going to love to see what they can do with him offensively, using him in different positions, different spots on the field, different formations, different plays to see how he can, they can use him to their advantage there. So I like that draft pickup of him, even though I think they could have went somewhere else there. I mean, Gibbs wasn't the best selection for Detroit when they picked him in the draft, but they got him. They believe that he's going to be, they believe he can produce right away. So that's what, because I mean, you're not going to have I saw they were going. I saw them trading Swift a mile away because you're not going to draft a running back like Gibbs and keep Zadarius Swift on the roster as well. So they trade him to the Eagles, who we'll talk about in a second. But clearly, Detroit has a plan. They want to go to the postseason. They want to win. I think they can do it. I think they take the division this year. I think the Detroit Lions are going to win the NFC North. It's not going to be the Vikings. It ain't going to be the Packers. It for sure isn't going to be the Bears, but it's going to be the Detroit Lions. Now, let me say this about Chicago. Chicago, I mean, yeah, they picked up DJ Moore. They made a couple of draft moves. Their roster will be okay. I think Justin Fields is going to continue to develop into an NFL quarterback. He's been improving each year he's been in the league, but I don't think this year is going to be the year Chicago gets over that hump. I think they win maybe 6 or 7 games. They only won 3 last year. I think they win maybe 6 games, maybe 7 games. I give them 7 at the most. 8 would be pushing it, but I say they win 7 games this year. Maybe finish third in the division. Finish third in the division. Either them or the Packers going to finish last in the division. I don't know which one yet. I feel like it's going to be either them or the Green Bay. Your top 2 seeds, your top 2 teams, I believe in the NFC North again are going to be the Lions and the Vikings. The Vikings trade away Zadarius Smith. We'll talk about that also, like I said. And they lost Dalvin Cook. They're going to cut him pretty much. They're going to cut him, so he'll be gone. So they're going to look pretty different. And Kirk Cousins is not, he's still Kirk Cousins. So I don't, you lose Adam Thielen to free agency to the Panthers, right? So the Vikings won't be the same next season, and I expect a little bit of a regress from them. Now they hired Brian Flores to be their defensive coordinator. They think he can rejuvenate that defense, make them competent, formidable, right? But again, they lost key players, but they bring some in. They hope that their secondary guys can develop. Andrew Booth, and their corners back there, they hope those guys can develop, right? So we'll see what happens with that, but you still got Justin Jefferson, your superstar receiver. He's going to go and do his thing every week, but will that be enough? I still don't think they win the division. I got Detroit winning the NFC North, and I'm going to stick with that. Moving on to the NFC South, it might be a little bit of bias here, but I'm going, of course, with my hometown Falcons. Yes, so shout out to my guys over there at Against the Call, Nick, Mike. I'm going with the Falcons to win the NFC South this year. I think, of course, we want to see what happens with Desmond Ridder. Is he going to be enough can he be the man for them? We talk about it all the time, right, on this podcast. I think he can be. I think he's got the traits, the mental traits, to be a starting quarterback in this league. Arthur Smith has said multiple times he's a guy that he's a little bit ahead of the guys his age. He processes things really good, and in the 4 games he did start last year, he played decently, for enough for a rookie, So I'm excited to see how with a full offseason being the starter, how that helps him grow and mature in his offense. And then you add a guy like Bijan Robinson in the backfield, and still got Tyler Algieri, 2-headed monster in the backfield. Put Cordell Patterson out wide, put him in different spots in the offense. It's Kyle Pitts. Hopefully they get him involved. You finally have a quarterback who can get the ball to him, that can throw more than 10 yards down the field, that is accurate in Desmond Ridder. So hopefully that connection between him and Pitts can grow and manifest into something special. Not only that, but Jonathan Smith, they brought him over from the Patriots. So hopefully he's trying to reassess, and bring his career back into the spotlight after some down seasons with New England. So he's hoping to get that production back up as well here in Atlanta. So Falcons, defensively, we already know the defensive improvements they made to the roster, bringing in guys like Jesse Bates and David Onyemata, Caden Ellis from the Saints. Calais Campbell from Baltimore. They improved their defense, right? Drafting Clark Phillips late in the draft. Corner, trading for Jeff Okuda, right? So they obviously made an effort to address the defense, particularly the secondary, the defensive line, because they know that those were their weakest points. They couldn't rush the passer, they couldn't cover anybody the past couple of years. So now you address those spots in the offseason. Can you get production out of that? That's what I'm looking forward to seeing for the Falcons. I think they can do it. I think they got good guys. I think Ryan Nielsen is a good defense coordinator. I think his scheme is going to work here. I believe that it's going to be good, and he's going to get the best out of these players. And another thing is the culture, man, that the Falcons are building, right? We all know the stuff on paper about these guys. Like, they're good players. Jesse Bates is like a top 10 safety in the league when he's healthy. You know, we know what AJ Terrell is. He's a great corner too. He's continuing to improve. Had a little bit of a down year last year, but I know he's going to bounce back. Jeff Okuda is on an improvement year deal. He's a talented player. This guy was a third overall pick a couple years ago. So, he's got the talent, right? So we all know that on paper, but it's the culture. You're bringing in guys who want to win, guys who are going to go to work and compete and work hard. That's the type of environment that Arthur Smith is trying to build here. And when you're in not only just in football and sports, but when you're in a business and when you're in a company or whatever, you want your team, your staff to have that mindset. Hey, we're going to work hard, we're going to compete, but we're going to work as a team, as a unit. We're going to get things done in a professional manner. And just put our best effort out there, right? Leave our best effort out there, and do what has to be done, right? And once it is done, that you gave your best, no matter what the results were, and that goes not just for sports, but in life as well. So it's good to have a unit, a team like that, and I think that's what the Falcons are trying to build here. So with their culture, so kudos to them. The Saints, they got Derek Carr, you know, they got Jamal Williams. They drafted the TC running back as well. I believe his name. I can't remember his name, but they drafted him. And so the Saints, of course, they have a good team. I think they finished second in the division. Tampa's going to be like last. The Panthers will be third, I believe. Bryce. Look, you know, I still think the Falcons have, like, on paper right now, the uh, all around roster that's better. And you guys might disagree with me. I don't care, but leave your thoughts in the comments though. Like, let me know what you think. And we'll see. But then move on to the NFC West. Now, no, nobody in the Bay Area, please come after me. Nick Winkler, my good friend over at the Locked On 49ers podcast. Hopefully we're still good friends after this. But I have the Seattle Seahawks taking the NFC West in 2023. I think they can steal the crown there from the 49ers, who have had the past couple of years. We still know what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers quarterback situation. Like, is Trey Lance going to be healthy enough? Is he going to be ready to start? Or is Brock Purdy going to be ready to start? Then if those two can't go, or be starters, then you're looking at Sam Darnold. No, that's not going to be enough to win the West. Even with the talented roster that the 49ers have, I still think in the Seahawks, Smith, he played really well last year, earned that big contract he got, and they made some great draft moves, getting Jackson Smith and Jiba to add to that offense with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, and you got a home run, back in Kenneth Walker. The defense, you drafted what's the cornerback's name? They got Tariq Woolen, of course, last year, and then you went and drafted the cornerback from Illinois this year in the draft. I can remember his name, but he's a great stud. He's a stud cornerback, and he's lengthy. He's very good in man coverage, press guy. Like, the Seahawks have I think they have a roster that can win the division. I think they can win that division. Because the Cardinals won't be a threat, the Rams won't be a threat. So, it's really going to come down to San Francisco and the Seahawks again. And the 49ers, we don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be. Now they made some good moves in the offseason. They got Javon Hargrave over from Philly to sign with them to add to that defensive line. Of course, we know that the 49ers defense is always going to be good, even after losing to Miko Ryans, because he's now the head coach of the Texans, of course. So, but we know that defense is still going to be good, right? So, but I still believe that it's going to be the Seahawks that take the NFC West. I know it's a bold prediction, but that's my prediction. And last but not least, the NFC East. Of course, the Eagles are my pick to take the crown here for the division. I don't think there's a threat to them. They're still got a great roster. Jalen Hurts is an MVP level quarterback. He got his big contract that he deserved, and almost won a Super Bowl. Took his team to a Super Bowl last year. You know, their roster just is really good. Now they lost some key players, but they drafted some good players as well. Jalen Carter, Noah Smith from Georgia, continuing to get those Georgia defensive players who had played under Kirby Smart in that defensive mindset, and that tough environment there in Georgia. So they have that mindset coming in, that winning mindset. Most of them have won. So a few of them have won 2 national championships. So Jordan Davis is going to be coming back. I mean, Kobe Dean, and they lost, of course, CJ Gardner Johnson. They signed Terrell Edmonds away from the Steelers. So I think the Eagles, they may not be as good as they were last year, but they're going to still have a great team, a great roster. And I'm interested to see what happens with that. So the Cowboys, they're going to do what they do. They're going to have a good season, and they're going to sneak it up in the playoffs like they do every single year. The Giants, they're going to improve again. I think they're going to win a few more games they did last year. They're steadily getting there. Was Daniel Jones worth that big extension? I'm not sure. I don't think he was, but we'll see what happens with the Giants. And then the Commanders, same thing, like quarterback thing. Is Sam Howell going to be enough? Is he the guy? We don't know. We'll have to see. So. But moving on here, want to talk about Zadarius Smith getting traded to the Browns away from the Vikings. So Zadarius Smith is a guy, he was originally in Baltimore, then he moved to Green Bay, and they had a great pass rush going there with him and Preston Smith, his brother. Then Zadarius then goes to the Vikings. Had a good year there, and have a few good years there, and brought energy to that team, and now he's joining Myles Garrett in Cleveland. I think this is a great move for the Browns. Myles Garrett, of course, is a tremendous pass rusher, great against the run too, but you have to have somebody to complement him. And Jadeveon Clowney thought he was going to be that guy. He really wasn't that guy, and so for the money that they were paying him, he thought he deserved more, and so he leaves. Now you got that spot open there, and you go and get a guy like Zadarius Smith, who's a great pass rusher, a veteran in this league, a guy who is going to bring energy to your defense and to your locker room, a veteran. That's what the Browns need. I feel like his jolt of energy is something that they need there, and that he can really complement a guy like Myles Garrett. Those two rushing the passer will be very scary for opposing offenses. So good move for the Browns there, and the Vikings get some compensation back. Hey, but they still got to pay off some of that contract. So that's the only bad part. But last but not least, my must-watch game for the 2023 season, I got the Jags and the Chiefs week 2. This is an interesting game because Jacksonville, they played Kansas City in the playoffs last year. The game, was fairly. I mean, if Kansas City, they didn't blow them out, right? It was kind of close until the defense for the Jaguars kind of crumbled a little bit. The pass rush stalled out. They couldn't really get going, and then it kind of went away from there. I think Jacksonville's continuing to improve. I think they're a really good team. They came back from a 27-0 deficit against the Chargers in the wild card, last year. So this is a team that knows how to fight. They can play. Doug Peterson is a Super Bowl winning head coach, a great offensive mind. He's a quarterback guru. He's, going to continue to develop Trevor Lawrence. I think after another full offseason working with Doug Peterson, Lawrence is only going to continue to get better. And the Jags just still have a talented roster. Travis Etienne in the backfield. He's a good player. So among the other good players they have on defense, right? So they are a team that fights and competes, and I think they can give the Chiefs a run in this. And again, and this is a good week 2 matchup. It's early. It's a good way to test both teams to see how good you really are. So we'll see. But yeah, Jags and the Chiefs week 2. So that's my game of my must-watch game of the year in 2023. You guys, let me know what you think would be the best game to watch, your must-watch game. I know there's a few of them are the Jets and some of them others, because Aaron Rodgers is in New York. But, we'll see what happens with that. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you guys for watching today on another episode of James Smith Now. We'll be back with more content this week, so please make sure you check us out on the channel, subscribe, like, share your thoughts in the comments, and also check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. That's where we are. I've been your host, Jaden. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.